Okay, this is the beam top nailer design for the SMF. Outline for it is to show you the overall frame details. We have looked into different components, close in, but we haven't stepped back and looked at what the whole frame looks like and what we're supplying or what we're selling to the customers. And also, we've been saying that the loads are in the frames, okay, but how do we get the loads into the frame is another thing we should look at. The primary function of the beam top nailer is to get the load into the frame. There are many other ways to transfer the load into the frame as well, but for residential construction or for light frame construction, most of them will transfer through the beam top nailer, or you could do it by transferring it through the column flanges or the column as well, and we'll see some of the details in here. So design shear transfer. Obviously, we have to design the bolts to transfer from the wood nailer into the beam top flange, and then what kind of hole patterns are we expecting to see in the beam top flange? Okay, so the color red is our 4x wood top wood nailer. The reason is a 4x is when we looked at this from the beam top flange to the top of the cap plate, that's 3.5 inches. Okay, that's all consistent right now. We've been doing that for 3.5 inches, so we could get a 4x beam nailer. We also on the column supply wood nailers as well, and we supply the bottom nailer, the second one. We ask them to install in the field if that's required. So the top nailer is attached to the field install plate. So there's a plate that comes all the way. The contractors put, and what they do is either nail it or screw it to a beam top nailer. So if these bolts between the flange to the wood is what's transferring this shear. So the column nailers, because of the geometry and the width of the sections, we're supplying 2x8. For the beam as well, we're trying to limit it to 7.25 inch, so we fit it in a 2x8. For the custom designs, it doesn't matter, but we need to know that's how wide the beam is or the column is. So you have to keep that in mind when you're picking a beam size, a column size. Make sure they do somewhat match. You don't want the column to be too narrow, a beam that sticks out, so pay attention to those. And then the wood nailers in the US are 2x6, 2x8, 2x10. I would say that's probably would cover most of our applications, but also there could be 2x12 as well if you want. So all the stock sizes or custom or stock frames we have are 2x8, so they're 8 inch, 7.5 inch for sure, and 7.25 for the width for these wood nailers. So our steel width for both the column and the beam, for these we have to make it smaller than the 7.25. Okay, so that's how the wood nailer comes out. What you see is actually what they will get. So we ship out this attached with all the bolts bolted to the nailers, and the top bolted to the top, bolted to the bottom. Obviously the connection kits we supply, but when erected, that's what they look like. So the beam length, H1 is critical. LCC is column center line to column center line. That's one dimension we're talking about. We'll get into more when we're saying actually drawings to see what, send it back to the engineer, what dimensions we should send it back.
So then the engineer, the window.
Yeah, the engineer architect. The window opening is critical.
Sitting.
Yeah. So this the W1 dimension was a clear dimension. Make sure. Make sure we do that. Subtract subtract it out. If they want another one, if they want to trim another one, they could do that as well, as long as it's bigger than what they need. So that's what it looks like. The bottom one, like I said before, this is as required. The reason is the bolts do stick down past our first nailer, so it's in the way. So if they wanted to cover it, we'd like to provide this so they could have a nail or two and then cover at the bottom plate if they like.
Protection.
Okay, so load transfer to the beam, you could have all the load transferring this way, which that's what the beam top nailer was doing. Also, load transfers could be coming in to the column, and this column I'll show you some installation detail later. They could weld a bracket to the column flange, weld a shear tap to the column flange, then they could transfer the loads here as well. So in those cases, then the beam top nailer is not too critical because you're not using it to transfer load. So depends on where the load is coming from, and when you're looking at a set of drawings, you might know that and you might not know that. So that's something we might ask the engineer to coordinate as well. So put that down on your list of how the load is getting the frame. Okay. So this is the older one as well.
So they can hang the wood beam, so they put the hanger on the steel beam.
Yes, that they could.
And they can hang on the stud.
They could hang on the stud. I'll show you some details later.
Okay.
This again, I don't know why it is an old